Well, I guess it's been way too long since I originally did my first podcast on November 1st. So, getting back at it. In the first podcast, we talked about kind of just my story and how I overcame some adversity, what that meant to me, and hopefully gave some insight for others who may be going through the same thing. So, today I'm going to talk about values and what values mean to me. So, values are basically just a person's principles or standards of behavior. So I run my personal life and my business through values. I have found that if I can identify values, I can create behaviors around those values. And if I try to implement that into my life, that when I have decisions that need to be made and I can fall back onto those values, that the decisions and the choices become very easy. The yeses and the nos become easy. If it's not something that aligns with my values, it's just a no. And it's not a right or wrong thing or a good or bad thing. It's not that I am judging that situation or maybe even that person that I'm saying no to or yes to. It's just it doesn't align with my values. So when I look at values, I look at them in two different ways. So I look at values as either lived values or perceived or desired values. And so lived values are exactly that. How am I living my life? If you or somebody was to follow me around for a month and record everything that I did, everything that I said, all of my actions and my behaviors, all of that, you could decipher what my lived values are. Kind of is what builds my character. So those I consider lived values. And then we have desired values, which might be values that maybe I want to have, or maybe I have some of the time, but I'm working on having them all of the time. So, for some context, I can tell you for me personally, my personal values are hard work, personal responsibility, health and fitness, and authenticity. Those four, and honesty and integrity, sorry. So, those five, I try to stay right around five if I can. Those five are what I try to lead my life with every day. And so I get to self reflect and figure out if I'm actually living by those. And if I'm not, what do I need to do to make sure that I am? And so I'm a big fan of reverse engineering things. So, some of my desired values, some of the things that I've struggled with in the past, health and fitness, I do a pretty good job with, but I struggle with as well. So, what I can do is I can reverse engineer and look at what am I doing today, or what have I been doing in the last week, month, etc., that is moving my health and fitness forward. So the thing I struggle with the most is probably going to be diet. So food. What food am I putting in my body? What food am I using to fuel with? What stories am I telling myself on why I may be putting some crappier food in my body? And then what do I need to do to make sure that the food that I'm putting in my body is the good food, is the food that I need to fuel the lifestyle that I'm leading. So my days are pretty long, and so I need to fuel myself for those days, and my workouts can be somewhat strenuous at times. So same thing. What am I doing supplement-wise and food-wise to make sure that I'm living up to that value that I say I value my health and fitness? So to give you kind of backstory on health and fitness, I am now 48 going on 49. I'll be 49 this year. And when I turned 40, right before I turned 40, I think, I was struggling with my health. Obviously, I was still drinking back then, so that had a big weight on my health and fitness. And my family has a history of heart disease and diabetes. And so I'm not really sure what I weighed at the time, but I know I was upper 220, 225, somewhere in there as far as weight goes, and just very unhealthy. So I could see it in my face and my neck. And then I also had the classic Alvarez Cuban belly. So what I started to do is when I started to go to the doctor, or sometimes I would just check my blood pressure like at a Walgreens or at the grocery store, I noticed that my blood pressure was very high. And that's pretty normal for my family. But I didn't want it to be normal for me. And I didn't want to go on blood pressure medication just because I had seen what it had done to my mom and to my grandfather and to some other people that I knew that were on it. And so I started to look at, what do I need to do in order to get that down? Well, I mean, I already knew that I needed to lose weight. And so there were some things in my lifestyle at that time that I wasn't willing to change, or that maybe I didn't even realize that I needed to change. So I knew I needed to work out. And so that's what I found a CrossFit gym here in the Havasu that had just opened. I just moved from a guy's garage to an actual gym. And so I joined that CrossFit gym, and I've been a member there. It'll be, I think, 10 years in June or July of this year. So that was my journey to start in health and fitness. And what I have found was, and what I talk to a lot of people about when they ask me, is the more I worked out, the more I ate better. The more I ate better, the more I worked out. So there was this symbiotic relationship between the two, between diet and exercise, that just seemed to work. And is it perfect? No. Do I go backwards? Yes. And so I look at that and I reassess where I'm at with my diet and my fitness daily. So it's something that I look at when I journal in the morning. That's one of the things that I look at are my values. I look at all of my values when I journal, and I look at, what did I do yesterday that I'm proud of, that aligns with my values? And then what did I do that I'm not proud of? Or what didn't I do? Sometimes it's not always the actions I did. It could be the actions that I didn't do that don't align with my values. So I look at values every day. That's what keeps me on track to have the character that I want. And so I would challenge you. What I did was I found a website or a link to a collegiate study. I don't know what it is. It's a piece of paper. It has maybe 100, 150, 200, I don't know, values on it. And what I did is, I've done this with my team as well. What I did was I went in and I circled all the things that made sense to me. Like, oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. That's me. Oh, I wish that was me. I wish that was me. I wish that was me. So what I did is I laid out all of my desired and all of my lived values. And then I took all of those values and I grouped them into groupings that made sense to me. Not what made sense to somebody else, just what made sense to me. So maybe honesty and integrity were grouped in the same one. Maybe leadership, personal responsibility, hard work, maybe those were in one, right? So I grouped all of them into 5 groupings, which is how I came up with 5 values. And then what I did is, when I had them all in groups, I picked out the one that made the most sense to me, or the one that really jumped out, and said, yeah, that's the one. And I just circled it. I did that for me personally, and we did it for our companies as well. So when I look at values, I look at it in both ways. I look at my personal values, and then I look at, the core values of our company and our companies. And so core values for our companies are commitment, integrity, honesty, personal development, and personal responsibility, and consistency. And so we want to make sure that everybody that is within our companies aligns with those core values as well. And so you can always have people that may be perfect for a job, like perfect for a role, but not perfect for the company, like not perfect for our culture. So we want to make sure that they align with our culture first. And if they align with our culture, then we can find a position within the companies that maybe they align with as well. So we want the right person in the right job. We have been really good at putting maybe the right person in the wrong job, or even the wrong person in the right job. So meaning, like, if they're in our financial company, in our mortgage company, they were really good at sales and we knew they were going to crush it, but they just didn't align with the values of the company. That's going to do nothing but cause waves within the company, and it's just not healthy. So that's one thing I want to talk about in values itself, is when I talk about authenticity, is I want to be authentic to myself. I want to make sure that I'm being Greg. Who's Greg? And that it comes off that that I'm around other people and I'm talking to other people, that they get the real me. I've tried to look at things and have values, or maybe not even have the values, but maybe morph to values that my environment says that I need to be. And when I did that, I came off very inauthentic, and I could feel it. And if I could feel it, I know the people that I was talking to could feel it. And so I had to really work on figuring out who I was, and then be unapologetic about that. So When I found that I was not being authentic, I found that I was not in alignment with my core values. And when I looked back and I tried to figure out when I wasn't and when I was, like what my mood was like. Was I in a good mood? Was I happy? Was I maybe kind of more of a dick? Was I short? Was I impatient? Did I have patience? All of those things. So what I found was when I wasn't in alignment with my values, my behaviors and my personality per se were not who I wanted to be. And the most amount of stress that I found in my life was when I wasn't in alignment. So like we can say we want to be honest, we can say we want to act with integrity, and then go out and be dishonest, right? Not have good character, not act in the values that we say we live or that we desire. And that's where I found I had the most inner conflict, was doing one thing and saying another. Saying I wanted these things, but not doing the things that I needed to do to get there. So I listened to a lot of Andy Frisella, and I have posted this in the past, as a meme, but he's pretty harsh, and he says, "Be about it or shut the fuck up." Like that means a lot to me. Like I can say anything, I can say a lot of things, and I can even go do some things. But when I start to be, when that becomes part of my being, everything changes. I find that I'm happier, because I believe happy is just, it's a state of mind. It can't be from something. If it's from something, then it can be easily taken away. And I did that for years, and I have family that does that. We try to find our happiness in things. Like if I just get to, I'll be happy. If I can go to the beach, I'll be happy. If I can take that vacation, I'll be happy. If I get to that number, if I have X amount in my savings, I'll be happy. If I get this car, I'll be happy. All these things, right? So happiness cannot be put into those things. It has to be a state for me. So what I found was the state that I could get into where I found happiness was when I was in alignment. So for me, a value is hard work. When I'm working hard and when I am producing, I find that I'm in a good state. And so I can find happiness in that. When I'm working out, same thing. Even through the struggle, even through some of the pain that's created in those workouts, I obviously know that it releases some endorphins, so I do get that feeling of being high like I used to get when I drank or did drugs. So there's a familiar feeling there, so I do find happiness in that as well. But I really found that if I live by my values, that I'm in alignment, and when I'm in alignment, everything else just seems to happen. Are there problems? 100%. Are there struggles? Absolutely. Is there sacrifice? Yes. But all of those things come so much easier when I'm living and being who I want to be. And so I hope you can take a little bit away today about values. What values mean to me, what my values are, what my actions, how my actions lead me to live those values, even when they are just desired values. I believe it's a work in progress. I don't think it's anything I'll ever reach where I'll be the perfect Greg that I can see in my head. Actually, that's something that I really struggled with, is being the person that I thought I was supposed to be in my head, like already seeing what that was and then not living up to that. So I just make sure that I'm getting a little bit better each day and working towards that I have the good character that I want, that I'm working hard, that I take responsibility, personal responsibility for everything that happens in my life, even when that's hard, that I'm really working on my health and fitness, and that I'm being the most authentic version of Greg. So I would challenge you. I would ask your people that are around you to sit down with you and figure out what they say your values are. Hey, someone that's around you all the time, maybe your spouse, maybe your kids, like by the actions, do you think I'm this? Do you think I'm that? And sit down and really figure out what your values are for you. You all have them. Everybody does. We just might not be in tune with them. We just might not have them written down. We might not have taken the time. But I would tell you, figure out what those values are, reverse engineer that. If you're not doing the things that you know you need to be doing to live out those values, start doing them. So we'll talk to you soon.